Breaking news, Wang Yibo in tears. Tan Songyun and Xiao Zhan leave Wang Yibo behind in the hospital. The night was meant to be quiet. The sterile white corridors of Beijing's Central Hospital were supposed to echo only with the shuffle of nurses' shoes and the soft beeping of machines. But instead, they became the stage for a scene so gut-wrenching, so surreal, that fans across the globe are still struggling to process it. Wang Yibo, the man who had always carried storms in silence, was seen in tears, his rawest breakdown yet, after Tan Songyun and Xiao Zhan walked out of his hospital room, leaving him behind. What unfolded in those few minutes wasn't just a scene from a drama, it was real, painful, and enough to shake the foundation of everything we thought we knew about their story. The build-up: why was Wang Yibo in the hospital? Whispers had already circled days earlier. Insiders claimed Yibo had been admitted after collapsing from exhaustion, an all-too-familiar story in the entertainment industry. He had been pushing himself beyond limits: rehearsals, shoots, secret late-night songwriting sessions. Those closest to him knew the truth: his mental and physical state was still fragile after months of relentless pressure. Xiao Zhan, who had vowed in earlier moments never to leave his side, reportedly dropped all commitments to be near him. For days, fans assumed he was camped in that hospital ward, holding Yibo's hand as machines beeped quietly around them. And for a while, that seemed to be the case. Until Tan Songyun walked in. Scene 1: The Unexpected Visitor. Eyewitnesses recall the tension that ignited the moment Tan Songyun appeared in the corridor. Dressed in muted tones, her expression unreadable, she entered the hospital flanked by assistants. Nurses froze mid-step. Staff whispered in confusion. Why was she here? Why now? When Tan pushed open the door to Wang Yibo's room, Xiao Zhan was there, perched on the edge of the bed, Yibo's hand in his. The sight of her seemed to stiffen the air itself. "Zhanji," she said softly, her voice trembling, "we need to talk." What no one expected was Xiao Zhan rising almost immediately. Scene 2: The Breaking Point. Wang Yibo's eyes widened as Xiao Zhan stood, gently laying his hand down on the sheets. His lips parted as if to protest, but no sound came out. He simply watched as Xiao Zhan walked toward Tan Songyun. The silence was deafening until Yibo finally found his voice, hoarse and breaking. "Zhanji, don't go." Those 3 words cracked like glass in the sterile room. Nurses peeking in held their breath. Even the air felt heavy with heartbreak. But Xiao Zhan didn't turn around. He only pressed a hand briefly against Yibo's blanket, an unspoken apology, before following Tan out into the hall. Scene 3: The Tears. The moment the door closed behind them, Wang Yibo broke. Tears streamed down his face, his chest heaving as sobs tore through him. The boy who had once stood unshaken in front of thousands on stage now crumbled in an empty hospital room. He pressed his palm over the spot where Xiao Zhan's hand had rested, as if clinging to the fading warmth. He promised, Yibo whispered to himself, over and over. He promised he wouldn't leave. Staff tried to console him, but their words dissolved against the rawness of his grief. They weren't witnessing a patient's sadness, they were witnessing a man whose anchor had just been ripped away. Scene 4: The Corridor Confrontation. Meanwhile, out in the corridor, Xiao Zhan and Tan Songyun's voices rose in a heated exchange. "You can't keep doing this," Tan snapped, her tone sharp yet edged with something almost protective. "You're losing yourself in him." Xiao Zhan's response came low, trembling with restrained fury. "You don't understand. He needs me. I need him." Fans and staff alike were stunned. For months, speculation about Tan Songyun's quiet disapproval had lingered, but no one expected such a direct confrontation, especially not here, in the same building where Wang Yibo wept alone just meters away. Scene 5: The Walk Away. And then, the unthinkable. Xiao Zhan, shoulders rigid, followed Tan Songyun further down the hall. Their silhouettes grew smaller and smaller until they disappeared entirely around the corner. Inside his hospital room, Yibo's cries echoed. He called out once, weakly, "Zhan." But there was no answer. The sound of his sobs became the only music in that sterile chamber. Scene 6, the viral moment. A nurse, overcome with emotion, later confessed that she quietly filmed the moment Yibo collapsed back against the bed, tears streaking down his cheeks. The video, though only a few seconds long, hit the internet like wildfire. In the clip, Yibo clutches his chest with one hand, whispering something almost inaudible. "Why is love always leaving me?" Within hours, the clip trended on Weibo, Twitter, and global fan forums. #StayWithYibo became the top hashtag, while fans flooded Xiao Zhan's official accounts demanding answers. Scene 7, the divide. The world split in two. Some defended Xiao Zhan, arguing that perhaps he was caught in impossible circumstances, torn between loyalty to Yibo and obligations unseen. Others condemned him, accusing him of betrayal at Yibo's most fragile moment. And then there was Songyun, cast suddenly into the role of villain in the narrative. Fans dissected her every gesture, every glance, branding her the wedge between them. The aftermath, why this moment matters. This wasn't just about a hospital visit. It wasn't just about a man in tears. It was about the shattering of promises. It was about what happens when love, already under fire from the world, fractures from within. It was about seeing Wang Yibo, the man who once held silence as armor, laid bare, sobbing in a hospital room, because the one person he trusted most chose to walk away. The image of him in that moment will haunt fans for years. Because for the first time, the question wasn't whether Yibo and Xiao Zhan loved each other. The question was, can their love survive this? Closing scene, the unanswered question. As of now, neither Xiao Zhan nor Songyun has spoken publicly. Wang Yibo remains in the hospital, recovering physically, but his emotional wounds are raw, exposed, and bleeding for the world to see. Fans wait with bated breath. Will Xiao Zhan return to him? Will Yibo forgive him? Or was this the night their story, so passionately fought for, finally broke beyond repair? One thing is certain, that night in the hospital wasn't just another headline. It was the night the world watched Wang Yibo cry, not on stage, not in a role, but in real life. And the echoes of those tears may never fade. Wang Yibo's tears, the hospital scene that shook the world. The world saw only fragments. A clip here, a blurry photo there. But those who stood in that room, those nurses, those assistants, those crew members, swore that nothing in their lives could ever erase what they witnessed when Wang Yibo broke down in the hospital. The room that held his pain. The hospital room was painfully ordinary, white walls, beige curtains, the constant beep-beep of a heart monitor. But that night, it became a theater of heartbreak. The door had just shut, cutting off Xiao Zhan's silhouette, as he disappeared down the corridor beside Songyun. The silence that followed was so heavy, it felt alive. For a moment, Yibo sat frozen, his hand still lying palm up on the bed where Xiao Zhan had placed it moments before. Then came the crack. A shudder ran through his body, and before anyone could speak, the tears fell. The tears that wouldn't stop. He covered his face with both hands at first, as if ashamed to let the world see him like this. But the sobs were too violent, too raw. His hands dropped, revealing a face twisted in agony, eyes red, lips trembling, cheeks wet with rivers of grief. He didn't even look back, Yibo choked, his voice cracking like shattered glass. Not once. Every syllable felt like a dagger, slicing through the room. Nurses exchanged helpless glances. Assistants fumbled with tissues, unsure whether to approach him or give him space. And yet, no one moved. They were rooted in place, transfixed by the sight of a man who had carried the weight of the world, finally letting it crush him. The words that slipped out. Between sobs, Yibo spoke words that chilled the air. He promised me forever, but forever lasts only until she walks in. His voice was barely a whisper, but it carried across the room like thunder. Those words would later echo online, repeated endlessly by fans who dissected every syllable. But in that moment, they weren't meant for the world. They were meant for the one who wasn't there. The collapse. At one point, Yibo tried to sit up straighter, as if regaining control. But his body betrayed him. His chest heaved, his breathing ragged, and with a sudden, wrenching sound, he doubled over. His hand clutched at the sheets, twisting the fabric until his knuckles turned white. A nurse rushed forward, terrified he might collapse completely. "Mr. Wang, please, you need to rest." "I don't need rest," Yibo snapped, though his voice trembled. "I need him." The room fell silent again, his words ringing louder than any machine. The witnesses shook. Later, one of the assistants admitted, "I've seen Yibo angry, I've seen him frustrated. But I've never seen him cry. Not like that. It wasn't just sadness, it was betrayal. His tears weren't for himself. They were for the love he thought would never leave him." Even the hospital staff, who prided themselves on professionalism, were visibly shaken. Some turned away, unable to watch. Others found their own eyes welling up with tears. Because no matter where you stood on the matter, heartbreak is universal, and in that room, Wang Yibo was its truest embodiment. The silent plea. After what felt like an eternity, Yibo's sobs slowed into hiccuping breaths. His gaze drifted to the door, the same door through which Xiao Zhan had walked out moments before. "Please," he whispered, his voice so faint it was almost inaudible. "Come back." He stared so hard at that door, as if sheer willpower could summon Xiao Zhan back into the room. But the door stayed closed. The corridor stayed silent. And so, Yibo sat there, his tears soaking into the hospital gown, his body trembling with the weight of hope slowly crumbling into despair. The echo of his cry. The heartbreaking scene didn't end there. At one point, his sobs rose again, echoing down the hallway. Staff outside paused mid-step, startled by the rawness of it. One nurse whispered to another, "That's not the sound of a man in pain. That's the sound of a man losing his world." Inside, Yibo pressed a fist against his chest, as though trying to keep his heart from splitting apart. His tears blurred his vision, but he didn't wipe them away. He let them fall, one by one, as if each drop carried a memory, of laughter, of whispers, of promises made under moonlight.